webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
But I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, days in the 80s, fondle slab of choice, I don't know when that was, it doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the cartoon comes from, as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information. Because seriously, they don't want you to have just read two sources whenever I try to prove out one of these. It's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to be sadly disappointed on another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty, dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions, eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of.
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from FEMA Region 2, 3, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
I damn sure know I'm an original.
We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for
that's that.
For a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
And that is that on UCY.TV. This is the Ochelli Effect. I am Chuck Ochelli. So, we've had an interesting couple of days here in the news. We've had a lot of odd sort of developments regarding the situation over in Iraq. We've had all these kind of things going on. You guys heard the rebroadcast of Jack Blood Show, which again had me on there 2 days in a row, the same show. Jack had computer problems, and I want to make a little comment about that because part of what I said on that show was challenged by somebody off the air. They wanted to know why I had objections to Biden, and was I only simply pushing my whole JFK thing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do something for you which I've never done before on my show. I'm going to put aside all of my JFK research, and I'm going to act like it's not even in my brain. Let's let it go for a moment. Here's the thing. Just as a matter of course, I took time to study forensic autopsies, to study what forensic pathologists do, to understand how crimes are recreated. And I don't mean I sat there and watched a bunch of those stupid forensic shows on the mainstream media sources. I don't mean that. Ladies and gentlemen, I actually was present at autopsies. I actually sat there and studied how beveling occurs on bones when gunshots go through them. I sat there and understood how skulls are reconstructed and why they are. Now, what we saw over there with, in the case of Michael Baden, forgetting any of his past, let's just assume that he is the absolute preeminent, most honest possible prosecutor of something like this available. Let's just assume that for a moment. If you are irresponsibly releasing partial information when you do not have a complete picture and you're making any statements regarding what happens, regarding the forensic reality, the scientific reality that can be gleaned from the evidence without actually examining the rest of it, then what you are doing is being irresponsible and inflaming an already irritated situation. This is my issue. This is in fact my issue. Okay? And I know factually that the preliminary report that he was discussing during a press conference live, I don't mean what they decided to cut up and what they decided to show you and what his apologist friend, who happens to be a professor in the same field, was showing you. No, ladies and gentlemen, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that without a reconstruction, without properly orienting all of the factors involved in a crime scene, you know nothing. That is what I'm telling you. And ask anybody who does this kind of work if I'm lying to you. Oh, we don't have the clothes, so we don't have the complete information. You also don't have the weapon. You also don't have the scenario laid out. You also don't know the rest of the objects in the room. Forgetting about how GSR can be deposited on the skin, which, by the way, is not actually gunpowder. GSR relates to the chemical reaction created and the resulting discharge from weapons, which varies. But anyway, let's not digress too much. If you shoot someone through a wall, you're not going to leave GSR on them, whether they're wearing clothes or they're buck naked. Very simple. Why do I say this? Because this involves the scenario. And without scientifically including or excluding facts, you have nothing in the way of telling the story from a scientific point of view. So releasing the information the way that they have, and the way that the mainstream is now, in my opinion, an accomplice in creating a violent situation in the streets, not to mention the ramped up police state, which we are dealing with everywhere. This is not an issue of black and white, ladies and gentlemen. This is an issue of us and them. They are utilizing the black and white issue in order to create further subdivisions, in order to create, well, as I always say, the divide and conquer strategy has been valid throughout history, has it not? That's all I'm going to say about this subject, maybe. But, again, did I mention JFK in there? No, I didn't. Now I'm going to put that information back in my head that I spent like a quarter century gleaming from many things. Okay. That's the end of that, and I'm going to leave it there. Tonight, as with every Tuesday, and I've got to apologize to this gentleman because I felt a need to say something, again, about this situation. I'm disgusted with the bloodshed, regardless of what the motive is. This is not the way it's supposed to be. But again, my apologies to this gentleman because every Tuesday night I have, when I can get him, I am so grateful to have Mr. Roger Landry from the Liberty Beacon. And, interestingly enough, this happens to be the second birthday of the Liberty Beacon, from what I understand. And coincidentally, also your birthday, Roger. Is that right?
I'm 60 years old today, and I started the Liberty Beacon on August 19th in 2012, which means it is the second anniversary of the Liberty Beacon Project.
Wonderful. So I was correct about that, thankfully.
Oh, yeah.
And
all right, I sat down 2 years ago, and I had been on Facebook for a while, and I had been ranting about specific things here and there. And the one thing that I noticed as I looked around was there were so many good groups and pages. There were so many decent websites out there. And they were all talking in a different direction. They had all picked a unique subject out to focus on. What I discovered after a couple of years of after waking up and beating myself to death, doing in-depth research on everything, was that nobody was tying all of these things together. Vaccines were the most evil thing in the world. Political tyranny was the most evil thing in the world. The geoengineering was the most evil thing in the world. And everybody was taking their particular subject as being the focal point for all the evil in the world. Again, what you end up with is effort spread so thin, like Skippy peanut butter across a slice of white bread, that you can poke your finger through it very easily. So what the Liberty Beacon Project was intended to do was to bring all of these under one roof and show the connectivity. All of these evils emanate from the same individuals. I can, and this is where my strength lies, I can tie every evil you can throw in my face, if it's perpetrated through a mechanism of this government or the corporatocracy, I can tie it back to the same point. I can tie Bill Gates to chemtrails. I can tie Bill Gates to vaccines. I can tie Bill Gates to GMOs. I can tie Bill Gates to big pharmaceuticals. I can tie Bill Gates. So, I mean, and I'm just using that as one point of reference. It is a very small portion of this population. We're talking about a couple of thousand people, not even 10,000 or 100,000, that pull the strings that operate the mechanisms of governance and finance on this entire planet. And each and every one of these mechanisms all ties back. And until enough people become aware of that, everybody will continue to go in their own direction. That was the mission. That was the advent. That was the day the Liberty Beacon Project was born.
And let me just say that it is absolutely true. I guarantee you that if I throw two of the major concerns at Roger right now, he could tie them together probably on his feet. And I don't like to do this to you, Roger, but I'm going to do it anyway because I just want to show people what I'm talking about here. Here's the thing: let's just tie the nuclear energy. Okay, the nuclear energy issue, where we have the Fukushima issue, the various spills and poisoning of the planet. Let's just tie that together. Okay. Real quickly, which everybody thinks is a civilian concern because, after all, right? If we tie that together with the overarching military presence, which has now gone throughout the planet, the continuous warfare. What does continuous warfare and nuclear energy have to do with each other, which are both definitely threats to the human race?
Well, I would tell you right now that the military overstructure looks at the nuclear reactors spread out across this planet as key points. In other words, if I am going to attack Russia, or if I'm going to attack China, or even, let's say, somebody we wouldn't normally attack, France, or we're talking about nations that all have, or Japan, a goodly amount of nuclear reactors within them. Now, I have two possibilities. Okay, as a general, I can either throw a humongous amount of hardware at a country like Russia and barely make some headway and lose a lot of lives in the process, or I can explode an EMP bomb over about, I don't know, maybe a mile or two above, and actually maybe even a little bit higher, 150,000 feet, maybe even a little higher than that, over the Soviet Union, over Russia, in the area where most of her nuclear reactors are concentrated, which are over towards the European side of Russia. I would, in fact, knock out the command and control system within each one of those reactors. Now, I know for a fact, because I used to be involved, I've worked on nuclear submarines a good portion of my life. I know that the control systems in these reactors are generations old, decades old. They are not hardened against EMP blast. Even our own reactors within this country, very few are brand new, are not hardened to an EMP pulse. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a general, the first thing I'm going to do is to ignite a nuclear blast, okay, an EMP pulse over a region with the highest concentration of reactors. That immediately is going to drop those reactors down. Now, let's consider what we're seeing from Fukushima. Okay?
Roger, let me interrupt you for a moment.
Yeah.
Because I have to laugh because people have challenged me on this issue when I've said it, and I know that we're going to agree. And I threw that at you completely out of left field. There was no way you had any idea that I was going to put those
What's my motto? I'm an expert at nothing, but I know enough about everything to have an intelligent conversation about anything.
But what is interesting to me is that what you're laying out here is this very simple thing that I say and get challenged for, which is this. The nuclear plants, which are in place in civilian populations,
104 of them in America.
Correct. They are precisely there as preemptive strategic weapons. There is nothing that nuclear energy does but be a weapon. Here's the thing, and people say you're crazy. Well, you are explaining right now exactly how that works. It is unfathomable to me that people don't understand that if you disrupt these reactors, look at Fukushima. If you disrupt the reactor, what happens? Now, if you disrupt 104 of them in this country, that makes your weaponry a whole lot more efficient. It is a tremendous vulnerability. It is a tremendous weapon.
It makes for an extinction level event for all of humanity if you knock out one of them.
Yeah.
Fukushima, one facility is already killing the planet. Imagine knocking out 104 of them all at the same time. Now, let's talk about what causes the immediate danger, okay? All of reactors are cooled by water. There used to be sodium-cooled reactors, but it's a lot cheaper to use chilled water running through a secondary loop. So you've got a closed loop where the water is constantly passed around these rods and this fuel, and it extracts the heat. Then it goes through a radiator, which is filled with chilled water, just like the radiator in your car. It extracts the heat from the primary loop and cools that water down, which then recirculates back through. Okay, the reason being is because these rods, basically, they perform their function by creating heat, which boils water and creates steam, which turns turbines and makes electricity. Okay? So now you eliminate the ability to circulate that water through the secondary loop or the primary loop. What you have is those reactors, those rods, immediately starting to overheat the water. Once it reaches a certain point, let me explain to you one of the most powerful forces on this planet, and it's antiquated. The most powerful locomotives we've ever seen in existence are not diesel locomotives. They're not electric locomotives. They were steam locomotives. Steam has immense power. So now you've got this sealed container which contains the fuel rods and contains the actual reactor components. It's no longer being cooled. You're no longer extracting the heat. It doesn't take long for that water to become superheated and turn to steam. That steam will expand to the point where, just like happened in Fukushima, it will literally decimate. It will totally blow that containment vessel apart. At that point, you have the forceful ejection of radioactivity into the upper atmosphere, and the winds carry it around the world. We see what's happening with Fukushima. Let's imagine 104 of those, but let's go back to the military scenario. If I want to decapitate a nation, I use the EMP pulse. I drop maybe a dozen of their reactors offline. They go critical. Actually, critical is a bad word for reactors because a reactor that's running critical means that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. When a reactor is critical, it's operating normally. So we're talking about a meltdown or a superheating of the cooling water. Once that happens, and once you get that forced ejection through the steam explosion, now what you're going to be doing is decapitating everybody within hundreds of miles of that vessel. You do it in the right places, and you decapitate your enemy. It doesn't take long before their entire structure goes down, but there is a secondary gain out of that. Mm-hmm. You've destroyed the reactor, so you've destroyed their electric net. Okay, they have no electricity to their facilities. Yeah, they might have diesel generators, but again, an EMP pulse. All of the engines today run on a solid-state ignition system. Right. As soon as you light off that EMP pulse, that diesel generator no longer works. I don't care if you've got enough diesel fuel, if the power goes out, to run that diesel generator for a month. If you can't start it up, you're not going to cool that reactor. So
and that's a very powerful point too, Roger, because it is not a singular dimension this way.
No, it isn't. It's multifaceted.
This is multifaceted, and really, let's give credit where credit is due. It's brilliant, actually. The population cannot stand up. They cannot organize. Their communications are done. There is no food that is not contaminated and killing them. And there is death and destruction without you having to fire another shot. It is continuous. It is...
What else have you done to the local military forces? You have forced them into a position of aiding the civilian population. You have distracted them from a counterstrike, or you have distracted them from setting up any type of an offensive, because now you have an entire population on the move, out of the air, whatever they're doing, which demands some attention in a relief effort from any military forces within the area.
That's assuming that you even have survivors. The problem here is that we're talking about 100-fold Fukushima.
Easily.
100-fold. I cannot imagine the continental United States sustaining that.
No. If we took out even half of the reactors in the United States, you would see nuclear winter. You would see a cessation of approximately 90% of the population within 12 to 18 months, either through starvation or through radiation poisoning. And what you would see would be a total breakdown of society. But it goes beyond that. You would also see, and I did not only a couple of articles on this, but several radio shows. If you knocked out even 10% of the reactors, if this scenario existed in 10% of the 240-something reactors on this planet, so we're talking 24, you are looking at an annihilation of 30 to 40% of the world's population almost immediately within the first couple of months, and in a year's time, at least 50% more dying of starvation, and you would cripple, okay, the biosphere of the planet for generations. That's 10% of the nuclear reactors going into meltdown.
Right. That's and you know what? This is not an extreme estimate. This is not an extreme evaluation of what would occur. This is the minimum.
Yeah, but did you know one other thing? I'm going to say one other thing that most people don't understand. They won't believe it until they Google it and find out.
Sure.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Almost every nuclear reactor facility for power generation on this planet, damn close to it, is built on a fault line.
Right. Something like 88% at a minimum is built on a fault line.
Between 88 and 94%, depending on which geologist you talk to.
Well, right. I'm being conservative here again.
Right.
So they're actually precariously perched to begin with.
And the ones in California, duck and cover, because they are the most, anybody who built reactors where they were built in California had to have, had to have a frontal lobotomy before they decided to design this reactor and put it where they put it. The reactors in California are in some of the most dangerous fault areas on the planet. They're on the rim of fire.
Right. I mean, San Andreas, all this stuff is just... Yep. Yeah. But I beg to differ with you, Roger. They didn't have a lobotomy. It's done on purpose.
Can I give you one other little piece of evil?
Please.
All right. They're starting to decommission reactors, which is why Obama gave a speech about building new reactors within the country. To facilitate nuclear power over generating power via fossil fuels like coal or oil. They're starting to decommission these reactors. The owners of these reactors, which all belong to a big cabal, these power generating reactors, are petitioning the government to pass a law stating that once the reactor is shut down, they have no responsibility for an emergency plan. Now, let me tell you how absolutely insane that is. Do they have any issues with the actual reactor itself? No. Each and every one of these reactors has between 40 and 25 years of spent fuel rods sitting in cooling pools. They far outweigh by a magnitude of 10 to 20 times any danger from the actual reactor itself. So, if power is lost to the cooling facilities, which is what they're terrified of in Fukushima, and those spent fuel rods, they might call them spent, but they're not. They're still extremely radioactive and generate a lot of heat. So you've got 40 years of spent fuel rods in a cooling pool, and all of a sudden you lose power to that cooling pool. And these power generating companies have petitioned the government to alleviate them from any responsibility for emergency reaction plans once they shut the plant down. Yet those radioactive spent rods in those cooling pools will be hot for a very long time into the future. Whose responsibility do they become? They become yours and mine. And if a disaster happens, who do you think pays for that? And we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Look at the cost of cleanup so far on Fukushima, and it isn't even 5% complete. Imagine 5 reactors that they're shutting down in the United States, retiring, and all of a sudden we become responsible for anything that happens in those facilities, because it's no longer the responsibility of the power companies once they shut the reactor down. That is insanity. That is tyranny. And our government will pass that. They will give them that break.
Well, of course they will, because they have been the accomplices here. This is, being an accomplice before, during, and after the fact. And also the silliness that you see when the mainstream starts to cover stuff like this, even when they do occasionally remind us that nuclear power might not be the safest alternative, because I refer to it as a Wile E. Coyote style of powering things.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, it is really, but it really is. It's let me generate steam by splitting an atom. Hello?
Yeah.
Have we lost it? No, we haven't lost it. This is being done on purpose. And the mainstream says, well, they're just kicking the can down the road pretty much.
That's all they're doing.
But I don't think people realize how big that can is.
Okay.
This is what we know. This is what we know about it.
Right.
Spent rods. Okay, not only that, but what do you think happens to the water they keep heating? Where does it go? Well, it winds up all over the place, doesn't it? And why? Because you can only contain stuff that deteriorates its own containers for so long. And what is the imaginable amount of time? Oh, I know you're chomping to say something, Roger. You know what? I'm just going to shut up now, because I know I've just lit off something in your mind here, but please try and explain how big the can is that they're saying they're kicking down the road.
Well, let's stop by explaining to people what a nuclear reaction is, okay? A nuclear reaction is electrons and atoms smashing into each other with such force that they release energy. Okay, now let's put that into perspective, because you open Pandora's box there. How long can you maintain a facility whereby it contains a destructive force? So the nuclear reaction contained within that reactor, or the spent fuel rods, because they're still giving off radiation, okay, they're constantly bombarding their surrounding and their vessel with atoms that are destroying other atoms. It might take a while, but eventually you're going to destroy that containment vessel. This is a fact, and it won't happen overnight. Because they're pretty darn good containment vessels. But eventually you will get radioactive leakage, because nuclear power in itself is based on the destruction of atoms to release energy. Anything that's based on destruction or constant collision or impact of that magnitude has a destructive force associated with it. This is what we're looking at, okay? And what we're seeing at this point in time is that a lot of the reactors across this planet are approaching the point in time where they are not feasible anymore to continue to use them. Part of the reason is because of the constant reaction that has been taking place for generations or decades within those vessels. They don't just retire a nuclear reactor because, what, okay? If something breaks, you can replace it. You retire it because it's reached its limit of safe usage. We've got reactors across the planet that are reaching the point of retirement. But those reactors are not the issue. The issue is the megatons of stored spent fuel rods in all of those combined reactors around the planet that will be radioactive for a very long time to come, and keeping them cool. Because once you stop cooling that water, those spent fuel rods will create more destruction and more death than the actual reactor would. Now, let me preface this by one more thing, and then I know you're chomping at the bit. All right?
Okay.
The most deadly substance known to man, to human physiology, naturally occurring on this planet is mercury. To take mercury into your body, which is why I rail against this on vaccines, into your body immediately facilitates brain damage, spinal cord damage, and a lot of other things. If you ever see mercury, there's actually a video on YouTube where you can see this, where they take a little bit of liquid mercury and induce it into a petri dish with live brain cells and synapses in it. And under a microscope, as soon as they inject that mercury, you can see these live brain cells and synapses breaking down, withering, and dying immediately at ultra high speed. So I'm telling you, this is the most dangerous naturally occurring substance on the planet. There is only one thing more destructive to the human physiology than mercury, and that is ionizing radiation. What the hell do you think you get from these reactors when they fail, such as Fukushima? The most deadly substance to human physiology on this planet, not naturally occurring, man-made. And there is nothing short of a huge, really thick wall of lead that can slow these atoms down from slamming into your body and destroying cells.
See, and I'm so glad you said slowing it down, because here's the thing. The reality is that under the current state of technology, okay, the way that they do things now, there is no containment. There is no such thing. There is only the reduction in the speed of its spreading.
But once it slows down to a certain point, it no longer becomes destructive. It can no longer perforate the cells and destroy them. So you're right. I mean, there is leakage from these vessels, but that leakage is below the level of lethality. The reason that ionizing radiation is so deadly is because of the speed of these minute subatomic particles. They race out at such high speed that it's like a high-speed bullet going through a hot tub of butter.
See, all I got to do is begin to make a point, and you finish it. That's all I got to do.
I'm sorry.
It's
so
okay.
used to doing that.
Roger, that is why I love having you on. I don't, like I've said before, I could probably just go to sleep during the first hour of the Liberty Beacon night, and it wouldn't be a problem because...
No, you know too much, and you compliment too much of what I say by your knowledge for you to go to sleep. I wouldn't come on if you went to sleep.
Oh, well, look, I appreciate that. And again... and we came up with this out of nowhere. There was I just threw these two particular aspects at Roger, and this is the thing. This is the amazing part of talking to this man, and this is why you have appeared on my show more than anyone else other than myself.
I would hope.
Yeah, we would hope, right? But the reason is that this is exactly what is going on. Roger is so diverse and so amazingly knowledgeable. As he said before, he's not necessarily an expert on any one particular subject, but he is certainly a jack of all trades when it comes to the truth, the way I see it. There is no aspect of the reality of the world that Roger has missed on. And constantly, I know that you're always informing yourself and being informed even by all of the people that are working with the Liberty Beacon.
I'm being informed by people like you. I'm a sponge. I didn't come up with all of this myself, and I didn't find all of this out by myself. I found out probably 50% of all the knowledge I contain comes from talking to people like you, because we all have things that really stick out in our brain, things that really perturb us. I am the GP, and I am surrounded by all of the experts, and I soak up enough knowledge from each and every one of them to be able to hold intelligent conversations with all of them. But at no point will you ever, and nobody ever has heard me call myself an expert on anything other than staying alive for 60 years, which I've managed to accomplish today.
And congratulations on that. And I'm telling you, we need another 60 out of you, sir. So please continue to keep breathing and to keep doing what you're doing, because I'm telling you, you're absolutely invaluable in my stream of consciousness, and in my opinion, in the fight for the true freedom of the world, because it is a voice like yours that is absolutely necessary, and I do absolutely appreciate you. And I'm going through all of this. I usually don't do this so much when you're on the show. We just hit the topic, hit it hard, and we bring on somebody else. But I wanted to make sure, since it is the 2nd year anniversary of the Liberty Beacon, since it is also your birthday, I think I owe it to you to make sure that you know exactly how much you're appreciated by myself and my listeners. We absolutely could not do without the information that we get from you and the wonderful cast of individuals who have come on here and given us whole new worlds to think about. We're going to have Kevin on. I think I told you earlier, right?
Yes. No,
yes.
Actually, you didn't.
Oh, I didn't?
No.
Okay. Now, I always butcher people's names when I see them when they look like this, but Kevin, and his last name is Proto, it looks like?
Proto, yes.
Proto. See, it's always with that French pronunciation. One of these days we'll have the conversation about my irrational anger at the French people, but I know it's irrational, and it's okay. I get it, but anyway. Yes, he will be on in the second hour here, which is coming up pretty soon. But I wanted to make sure that before we go any further into this discussion, that you make that you are fully aware exactly how much I appreciate and treasure all of the time that you have put in coming onto my show, helping me to.
When are you going to do my show?
Well.
When are you going to come on a Liberty Beacon special with me so I can show everybody across the project who might not be aware of you just how much knowledge is packed into that little cranium of yours?
All you have to do is tell me you want me there, tell me the date, and I will make it happen.
We're going to do that because I always enjoy our conversations. We do tend to complement each other on our beliefs, and we do also tend to complement each other on at least the basic level of research we've done.
Absolutely. Well, this is the thing: is if you're looking for legitimate information, there is pretty much one method as far as going about getting it, and it's called continuously search, check yourself, continuously check your conclusions, and make sure you have the best facts available. These are things that not everybody does, Roger.
No.
Sadly.
No, and I make it a point. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to listen to one of my rants, because I do 2 a week now. I just started a new show called the Liberty Beacon Shout Out, and I also do the Liberty Beacon Rant. But I make it a point on each and every one of those shows. I tell the entire audience, you can't make this stuff up. I won't tell you anything that isn't based on solid research, and I don't challenge people to prove me wrong. I dare people to prove anything I put out is wrong. Now, I've had 3 challenges in 74 shows, and those 3 failed. And I'm not telling you I'm the most intelligent person in the world, because I honestly know beyond a shadow of a doubt I'm not. What I am telling you is that if I'm going to get up and rant, I'm going to make damn right well sure that what I'm ranting about is based on solid fact. Because the first time somebody puts a hole in your balloon, that balloon never quite is the same again. It never gets inflated to where it was before. It loses credibility. And the entire Liberty Beacon project is based on our credibility to put out good, factual information.
Absolutely, and that is I could not have possibly articulated it that well, Roger. I love the way that you explain things, and I'm telling you, you need to start doing just lectures. I love the Liberty Beacon rants. I really do feel as though people would be happy to pay you to go to their city to do lectures. I'm serious. The Liberty Beacon rants, though, just in case somebody doesn't know it, even if you don't go to the libertybeacon.com directly, which is all one word, by the way. Also, The Falling Darkness, I always like to mention, thefallingdarkness.com.
That's your favorite, I know.
Yes. And
there's actually 12 websites, but they're scattered across the planet. But the two most important ones you just mentioned, yes.
Because you can actually find just about every other website that is a partner of Liberty Beacon through those two. But in case you don't feel like doing that, in case you don't want to expose your web browser to being tracked at the Liberty Beacon or whatever else paranoid thing you have, look, you can find Roger Landry's rants on YouTube. You can find them in a bunch of other spots, actually, but go ahead and check them out on YouTube because that's where I find them. And that's where I like to click them on because at least I can turn on a player and continue on with whatever else I'm doing while I listen to Roger rant, which I would suggest anybody does. They don't sound like my rants, which somebody pointed out recently. I'm starting to do more. I think just listening to Roger is starting to influence me and get me to be a bit more passionate when I explain certain things. So I think you're influencing what I'm doing, Roger. Well, I don't know if you want to take credit for that.
I can't help myself at that point because, well, there's a foundation for those rants, and that foundation is I'm the founder of the Liberty Beacon Project, and it is a very large global project. So I talk to literally hundreds of people via Skype, via phone, via social media, or messages on our websites. I talk to literally hundreds of people over the course of a week, and these people all have issues, problems, so on and so forth. And now I need to maintain a level of respect for these individuals, so the last thing I can do is blow up at them, call them a crybaby, or anything. So by the end of the week, I have a lot of pent-up emotion in me. And now I've got 90 minutes on Saturday and 90 minutes on Sunday to vent that all out. So when I start to talk about the things that really bother me, the rant is absolutely, it's unrehearsed. It is a natural byproduct of the pent-up frustration over the course of a week. And it comes out, there are zero theatrics there, it comes out at a level that some people find to be totally in their face. And I tell people, if you can't take reality in your face, you're listening to the wrong show. Go away.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I understand that attitude. I have those exchanges a lot via messages and things where people start to really, stick me about, well, you hate this person because you're racist, you don't appreciate this part of the agenda because you have no sympathy for these type of people and all of these different things. And you know what? At the end of that, usually I defend myself a little bit. They continue on because they are insistent upon trying to destroy me in their own minds, because they have a prefabricated agenda. They do this, and I just sit there and say, you know what, at the end of the day, don't listen to me then. Don't listen to me. Don't follow what I do, because you don't get it. And I'll tell you what, you're welcome to come back when you do get it, though.
I will tell you the worst one that's happened to me lately. I have written a lot. As a matter of fact, I think I might have done one on this show, because a lot of the times my rants are based on articles I write, because at that point the research is fresh in my mind. I did one called Coming to America.
Oh, yes. We dedicated a large portion of this show to it. And you know what? Let me make this statement real quick, Roger. That is one of those issues where people start giving me a lot of crap about how it is racially motivated, that I have a problem with Hispanic people, that this is because I'm a white man, so I don't understand this, and everything else. And what cracked me up is that, of course, I already knew this, but what you informed my listeners of was that, well, it's kind of interesting that you would be someone who would be, put in that category of being racist or being prejudiced against Hispanic people, because after all, your wife...
My wife's name is Maria Juana Berrios de Sanchez Garcia.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a Hispanic wife, Hispanic children, and Hispanic grandchildren. And I dare you to tell me again that I'm prejudiced or a racist. No. What I am is I am patriotic. What I am is a person who believes in the law of the land. What I am is a person who believes in the Constitution. What I am is a person who believes that anybody, because this country was built on immigration, who wants to come into this country is welcome as long as they do it the way everybody else did, which was through the legal channels. So don't call me a racist. If you want to call me anything, call me angry.
Angry. And you know what? Let's just let this little thing go here and try and tell people, if you are able to truly look at the world as it exists right now and you don't have anger in your heart, I don't know what to tell you. Because if you're lying to yourself, you don't have any care about the future, you don't care about your own situation, you don't care about your children, you don't care about your friends, your family, or what legacy may be left. Because this entire situation here, the entirety of the world, just like Roger said before, he learns from all different people who have different focuses in different directions and sponges it up and understands exactly what situation we are in as and I don't even say a race, I say as a species, because this is not something that to me is separated by the lines in on a map. This is not separated by the divisions that people like to utilize to divide us among colors, among nationalities, among religious beliefs.
America has no patent on either liberty or tyranny.
Absolutely. And I would love to steal that from you, Roger, but it is your statement, and I wanted you to make it. Thank you.
Well, and it's the truth. And another thing I love to tell people is when people say, well, it's not as bad as you think, or it's nothing that I'm doing, so why are you harping on me? Let me explain something to everybody, and I put this word out on several occasions to people of ignorance, not stupidity, because stupid people have the facts and choose not to use them. Ignorant people don't have the facts, so they don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you that a generation, the litmus test of any generation is three things. This is the litmus test of a generation. Will my children be better off than I was? Will my children have more opportunity economically than I did? Will my children's rights and freedoms be protected so that they can have the other two? Stop and think about it. Today, the economy and the dollar are collapsing. Today, our rights are in a bucket, okay? And I'm talking about a honey bucket. And today, the future of our children is bleak beyond compare, all the way from Common Core, all the way up to that loss of rights. So as the gatekeepers of the up-and-coming generation, would you say we are failing drastically? We need to get off our dead butts and do something quick, or we will fail that litmus test, because what we will be leaving for our children is pure hell. Sorry about that.
No. Why are you apologizing to me, Roger?
Well, this is exactly how I know you don't have a rant, but sometimes I just get off onto it and I can't help myself.
Never apologize to me for being passionate, sir, because this is exactly why I do what I do. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. The fact is that I do this for the sake of the three younger little individuals which I have left behind in this world. If I am gone tomorrow, I want to make sure that at the very least I stood up and I said something. I want to make sure at the very least I tried to inspire someone to do something to make this world better for them, not to leave it in the sad state that it is, the declining state that it is. And not just in this country, but the entire planet. I have no desire to see any people suffer any more than they must.
Well, we see patriots spread out across this planet, or they speak themselves patriots. Again, patriotism has nothing to do with the United States of America. We have patriots within America, but there are patriots within every country. So patriotism is spread out across the planet. And a lot of people portend, I didn't say pretend, I said portend, to be patriots. I'm going to tell you what the measure of success or failure is for a patriot, or what it is going to prove when all of this finally culminates, when the clash finally happens. The measure of success or failure will be how many of those warriors died with their swords never being unsheathed. You can tell me all you want that you're a patriot, but if I don't see you doing anything to push back, then lip service doesn't mean a damn thing to me.
Well, let me just do this, Roger, and this is something that I don't normally do when you're on, but I'm going to tell you, I added a phone caller once because I had accidentally dropped you, or Skype accidentally dropped you, one or the other, but I actually, because somebody was messaging me and wanted to get your opinion on something, and I'm actually interested in it myself.
Michelle?
Michelle Mashuli, are you? Let's see.
No,
well,
she's not in.
Not in yet. Okay, but she does want to come on, and I'm trying to join her into the call. I wanted to get her on before we moved on to Kevin.
She's also a part of the Liberty Beacon Project.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is, and she was. There she is. Michelle.
Hello, guys. Hi.
Hello.
Hiya. So, as I was stating to Roger, before we get to Kevin, I wanted to let you ask your question because it's an interesting question, and believe me, I've got my views on it, which I think you're somewhat aware of. But go ahead, Michelle. I will let you at Roger there for a moment. Also part of the Liberty Beacon Project, and you definitely belong on Tuesday nights for sure. And at one time, were a co-host with me on this show as well. So
I will definitely be visiting you sometime on Liberty Beacon night. That's right. Y'all are still stuck with me. Ha ha ha.
Well, I hate. You know what, Michelle? Do I need to put up my bulletproof shield here?
Not at all. No, I think we get along beautifully, Roger. So here's my. I guess it's a segue. You were discussing the accusations of being racist, and you have a Hispanic wife, I have a Hispanic ex-husband and a Hispanic son, yada, yada, yada. So then we are both familiar with the reality of racial profiling and that it does exist. Now, to extend on that, as we all know, Ferguson, Missouri, Mike Brown, there's been all kinds of accusations. There have been, slander from both sides. Basically, what's your point of view? What is your take on it?
I will give you it in a very small statement, a nutshell. Okay? If you present no clear and present danger to a law enforcement officer, if you're not pointing a gun at him, if you're not holding a bow and arrow, if you present no clear and present danger, then to terminate the life of any individual is unacceptable. And we lost Michelle.
It's okay though. Please continue because
that's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell.
You can tell me this guy was a gangbanger. You can tell me this guy held up stores. You can tell me this guy beat up his grandmother every Wednesday afternoon. You can tell me this guy kicked babies in the park and ate squirrels for lunch, cute little squirrels. It doesn't matter. If this gentleman, at the point in time of his termination, presented no clear and present danger to that law enforcement officer, then what was done is unexcusable. And it doesn't matter what color he is. It doesn't matter what country he's from. It doesn't matter what his religion is. And it doesn't matter what his sex is or his sexual preference is. None of that matters. What matters is, did that person present a clear and present danger? In all aspects that I can see of this, at that specific point in time, he did not present a clear and present or mortal danger to the officer who killed him.
And I absolutely concur with you wholeheartedly. The only thing I will say, though, is this, that at this point in time, the public has been fed only piecemeal information, which is incomplete. incomplete. Do you understand that?
So I listened to the first part of their show. I listened about the autopsies, and I had a few things to say about that, but that was for you, and I understood that. But you're talking about the same thing here. How can you put the scenario together when you're only giving a few pieces of the puzzles? You cannot solve a crime unless you've got the mechanisms that were utilized to perpetrate that crime.
The mechanism, the landscape, the actual implements that were utilized, or at least close facsimiles of, in order to recreate, reposition, and actually tell the forensic story. Then you line it up with your witnesses and all that, and you can very quickly tell when people are lying. You can very quickly tell when things are inconclusive, et cetera, et cetera. This is not only a scientific problem here, but this is also a social problem, because my real irritation, Roger, is that it has been released in parts, and I believe that the result of these factoids being dropped on the public has been self-evident. We have had increases of violence. We have had the increased mobilization of a militarized police force, which now they are using that term in the mainstream. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining the party, fellas. But still, the excuses, the constant politics of racial division, the nonsense that this is merely the problem. Look, I'm going to say this. And I know that you and Michelle has rejoined us. I know that you have seen it, and I know I've seen it, and I've known many people that have seen it, and I've discussed this privately with a great many people. Does anyone remember Kelly Thomas?
Oh, okay. God, yes.
So
that breaks my heart. You know why that breaks my heart, and any listener that's heard me before knows why that breaks my heart. For those that don't remember, Kelly Thomas was a schizophrenic man in California that was beaten to death by police as he begged for his dad to come save him.
Right, and do I give a damn that Kelly Thomas was not black? Do I give a damn what his race was? No. What I saw is a human being. What I heard was a human being crying and begging for mercy while being put to death for simply non-compliance to an officer. And what you're telling me thus far, if this kid essentially died from a bullet to the head for basically shoplifting a handful of blunts, then you know what? We are, I don't care. I don't care what color he is. I don't care. What I'm concerned with is the amount of red. That is the only color that I'm concerned with, because there has been far too much blood which has been shed for nothing.
When did to protect and serve become law enforcement at any cost? Now, let me take this to the next level, because, Michelle, before you dropped off, this is how I was going to finish this off, okay? Please. What we see today is the implementation of racist division coming from our leaders. It is a card of divisiveness that is being played over and over again by black caucuses within the government, by white caucuses within the government, by a president himself. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, he's a black president, so that's why you don't like him. You know what? I'm tired of this crap. It is not that the people are racist on a whole, but there are racist people. It is that they are constantly being reminded of racism. It is constantly being put in front of them. It's not allowed to leave their psyche. It is being said by the mainstream media. There are some who say that this was based on racist motivations. So it is constantly being put in the minds of people. Why? Because it promotes the divisiveness. It keeps us from joining forces. This is exactly what they're trying to do, and the racist card is a perfect mechanism of division in a country that is built on multiple races. Do you know how many Orientals there are in this country? How many Indians and Pakistanis there are in this country? How many African Americans there are in this country? And I could go on. How many Hispanics there are in this country? We are a nation of mixed races. And when you at any point start to, via a government play, start to rise up and say, this is based on racist motivations, You have a vast majority of the public out there who are brain dead and brain dead propagandized to this mainstream media. They hear that it's a racist issue that's happening, and they believe it.
Right, and anybody who is seizing upon this for that purpose, I caution you to be very careful. But even people that are not ostensibly, I say again, tied to our supposed government, those who are not directly tied to it ostensibly, I said it again, who may be in one way or another. You know, the recent discussions about provocateurs and all of this other stuff, this is part of the playbook. Go back and study your history.
It is. And Michelle, did that answer your question, or is there something I left out, my friend?
Oh, no, of course not. I just wanted to get you on a rant. You should know better than that.
And one of the reasons I like you is you are a very effective button pusher.
Thank you.
Which is why you're going to have a great show, my friend. You are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
And Chuck and I are going to
greatly.
come and haunt you on occasion.
Of course. Oh, I've already talked to Chuck about it. He is going to be drug in, kicking and screaming, whether he likes it or not.
Oh, I don't think he's going to be kicking or screaming.
Well, I may be screaming, but I will not.
Well, if I can throw in on what you said, Roger, yes, I do believe that it is the greater, I guess the greater goal of the government to divide us by race, based on race, and that's what they're throwing at. But we have to remember, on a one-to-one basis, this is going to sound really bad, but I'm sorry, but most law enforcement professionals are not extremely educated. They're not extremely intelligent.
Oh, stop right there. I have to say this. I apologize. I'll let you continue. I can prove that because a couple of years ago, the city of Chicago had a case in front of the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court decided in the favor of the city of Chicago. The case was they were refusing to hire applicants who scored too high on the police entrance exam.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And do you know why they were refusing to hire them? Smart people don't do what they're told. They question it. They say, wait. This doesn't make any sense. Why are you telling me to do this? People with a lesser intelligence go, yup, okay, you said it, boss. I'm on my way. Now, that might sound cruel as hell, but that is a popcorn fact. I'm sorry,
it's
Michelle.
True.
One day, listeners, I will reveal to you exactly how my future changed because it was determined that I could not follow orders, regardless of the height of one's IQ and all that. And I'll talk about the IQ tests and all that kind of stuff one of these days. I got an interesting story, but unfortunately, the first hour of this show is gone. What was that?
I said, I'm walking on Kevin's time. I'd like to stick around just long enough to say hello to him. He is also a very big part of the Liberty Beacon Project, and I don't get a chance to talk enough with this gentleman. I just want to say hello. Right,
no, absolutely. And Michelle, listen, I really appreciate you coming in. I absolutely want to do your show. You know that. We talked about this, of course. And I still am waiting for someone to answer the challenge because I've had 3 people tell me that they wanted to actually interview me about me. And I don't think it's all that interesting for most of you out there, but it does link to a lot of the stuff we talk about, and it gives you a good idea of what the hell creates somebody like me. But
you are a very interesting individual because someone does not follow the path that you've followed. Excuse me, I just can't speak tonight. Without reason. I mean, I think that you're a very interesting individual. I just pick your brain, and I do it occasionally. Like I'll just throw you a little question, and then we'll have a 45-minute conversation. There's a lot to you. You're very complex. I'm sorry, Kim. I'm so sorry, Kim.
No, look, I appreciate it, and but look, I don't want to take away from Kevin's time because I'm really interested to see what we can learn from Kevin as well, because this is the best part about Tuesday nights for sure, and what I try and do on every broadcast. But of course, the Liberty Beacon is my focus on Tuesday, and I can't thank you enough, Michelle, for calling in. I'm gonna cut you out of the conversation for now, just to make sure I can grab Kevin easy. But of course,
and then I'll go away and you can come back.
I'll still be listening. I already have you open in my browser, so I will be listening, and I know how to find you.
Awesome, thank you. So, Roger, we're going to try and bring him in, but, let me just say this really quickly. I can't state enough exactly how great it is to be, partnered with you. It's not just the stuff that's on social media. It's not just the stuff that's, on the websites, et cetera. I am completely thrilled to find anyone who understands the nature of, like I said before, what's really wrong in this world, and trying to combat it as you are, sir. I can't. I don't know. I just
you stole my script. If I had to say something about you, I probably would read almost word for word.
We are going to try and grab Kevin now, and let's just see if technology cooperates. But if there's anything else you want to add to what we were talking about, I urge you to do so, sir.
Well, the only thing I would like to add is that the Liberty Beacon Project has been, I guess I would have to say privileged enough to run across people across this planet who actually understand what is happening. Not people who rant because that's what they've been told. Not people who literally beat up on others because it's something that they feel. These are people who know what is happening. And one of them is the gentleman you're about to bring in. And Kevin has his locals supporting locals project, which I would love to see spread across the globe. This individual understands we're never going to fix the system from the top down, but we can guaranteed fix the system from the bottom up, and that's locals supporting locals. Hello, Kevin. How are you, my friend? Why do I have to go on someone else's show to say hello to you? Huh?
Thank you for buttering me up there, Roger.
I never lie. I never exaggerate.
Thank you very much, Raj. And I thank the Liberty Beacon very much for the chance to be able to actually do a radio show and help get the message out there of what Locals Supporting Locals is truly trying to do here. And it's right in line with the Liberty Beacon. And it's a beautiful combo.
I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to bow out because this is your time, okay? At the level of corruption and complicity in Congress, in the Supreme Court, and in our executive branch, there is no way in hell we will ever repair this system from the top down. It needs to come a groundswell. It needs to come from grassroots. It needs to come from boots on the ground. And with that, the expert, the person who is doing exactly what I am speaking of, is Kevin Proto. And with that, Chuck, thank you very much for allowing me to rant today, and I'm leaving.
And thank you again, Roger, and happy birthday one more time, sir.
Yes, happy birthday, Raj.
So, Kevin, this is the thing, and I'm only going to take one minor issue with what Roger just said about you just real quick. And that is that, when he said we can't change the system from the top down, well, I'm sorry, I see things a little bit different than Roger, but I'm sure he won't argue with me if I said this. We can change it from the top down because we, the people, are supposed to be at the top of the food chain when it comes to this system. We are actually the ones who are supposed to be in control as far as I understand. We are the ones who are supposed to be making the decisions. But it's gotten turned on its head. And you, apparently, from what I understand, just from a few things that I have picked up, have actually started working towards solutions. And I love to hear about this kind of stuff. Plus, I know you took issue with me calling you a journalist earlier, but look, there are many different forms that journalism can take at this point in the modern era. And from what I understand about your work, I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me as though in a multimedia fashion, sir, you are definitely a journalist. So we'll go from there, and I'd love to hear about your, local actions and everything that occupies your time and what has brought you to the Liberty Beacon. So, without further ado, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Chuck. That's awesome, and it's great what Roger had to say there. And when it comes to the journalist part, it's the only reason why I say I'm not a journalist, is I'm not a writer, but what my actions do is done through a website, through our YouTube, our video work, interviews, local action, and more importantly, a calendar that we use, that we produce. And we're on our third annual calendar here for our South Okanagan in beautiful British Columbia, Canada here. And they're very unique calendars because in the inside of the calendars, it tells you who we are, what we do, why we do it, why it's important to keep your money local and support local businesses, local farmers, ethical farmers, of course. And then it also contains information on what are genetically modified organisms, what to look out for when you're shopping, how corrupt is our health system in Canada here. Well, we got Dr. Shiv Chopra, who worked for Health Canada for 35 years as the head scientist and wrote the book Corrupt to the Core. And he was the one that discovered the bovine growth hormone, the mad cow disease, and RBGA's growth hormone there. And instead of getting a medal, he was actually fired. And so they're still in court today, but it's a very informative first 4 pages, and then we get into our Shop Local directory. We even include the restaurants and cafes here that actually do bring in local farm produce and support the local farmers, because that's where the revolution starts. And then it's, as we get into the calendar now, every month is a different farmer. Tells you who they are, what they grow, how to find them all again. Includes some very, very, very important food facts, because a lot of people are seeming to think that medicine comes from pill bottles, and that's not the case. So we include how certain fruits and vegetables look like your body parts, and that's what they're good for. For example,
let me interrupt you just really briefly,
yep.
Because here's the thing: you're really saying a lot of really good stuff here, and I want to ask the first stupid question of the night, because and I know the answer to this, but I just want to hear you relate what it is, your viewpoint is. A lot of people say to me when I start to talk about the genetically modified organisms in the food and the way the food supply being contaminated with unnatural things is exactly what causes such obesity, what causes people to be susceptible to mind control, what causes people to be weak and ill in so many different ways is, it's just like, oh, well, now Chuck has gone and become a health nut. It's not that I'm becoming a health nut, ladies and gentlemen. It is that your food is making you sick, whether you realize it or not, right? But here's the thing. Why is it that we should be so concerned about this, in your opinion?
Well, that's a great question, because there's so many facets to it too, because like you just said, food is your medicine, but at the same token, there's more than meets the eye when it comes to genetically modified organisms, because it's patenting life. Right. So they're not only altering the seed, injecting different DNAs in there, but at the same token, they own it. And so Monsanto and other companies that are extensions of Monsanto are controlling the world's food supply. And as we can see through the food, processed food in the stores, prices are going up drastically when it comes to GMOs. So it's not like they're out there to feed and save the world. They're just out there to own it. And that's what people need to be made aware of here.
And it's really a mechanism of control, because at the end of the day, the very, very ancient sort of adage that you are what you eat, right, is exactly true. It actually does cause changes in one's brain chemistry. It causes changes in your body. It causes changes in your ability to procreate. It causes changes in every aspect of you as a human being, as a living organism. And this is what the key is with this stuff. And I'm so glad you said that, because all the time I hear, look, what is the difference if I want to eat garbage? What is the difference if I want to eat things that are unnatural? And isn't it, after all, would they put it in the food if it was harmful to us? My point here is that, yet again, just like with the mainstream media, just like with the various, fiat laws which are put into place in various municipalities, it is yet another, and in fact an even more insidious, mechanism of control. And this is what the problem is. I mean, I don't know if you disagree with me on that. I don't think so. No. But, please, go on. But I wanted to make sure I said that to me, this is just representative of yet another shackle for the slaves, which are the rest of us who are not in control of the corporation, of the elites, of the banks, those of us who are just part of the cattle out here. This is a mechanism of control. Your food is literally a mechanism of control.
Absolutely. Well, the thing was, I even got a personal story to what got me, to have a change of heart when it came to food, and what drove me to start up locals, supporting locals, is because I had osteoarthritis in both my knees, no cartilage in one and very little in the other, and it ended up putting me onto disability. And my background is 7 years of door-to-door sales, marketing, and managing and training people how to sell. And before that, 13 years of waiter and bartender, odd jobs in between. But usually it's go, go, go. And I was a big workout advocate. And I thought it was wear and tear. And it was through starting to watch the first documentary was Food Inc., which is what got me started, and then I didn't stop. And I learned how your food makes you acidic. And when you're acidic, that's where the cancers and all the other diseases come into play. And I learned through eating green vegetables and alkalining my body how I was actually able to cure myself, or I can't say cure, but ail myself to the point where I can actually walk again. The doctors told me I had to get 2 artificial knees, and coincidentally, my mother has 2 artificial knees, and I saw the hell that she went through, and I'm like, no chance in hell. And so that's when I went on my quest, and so that's my personal story to what got me started. And that's why I'm such an advocate, for real food, because I saw it do it for me. So it's not from, watching YouTube videos or this scientist said that, blah, 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 because you can't trust anything out there today. And that's, again, why you got to go back to the local level for this grassroots movement, because there's so much false information being spewed out there, and you don't know what to trust anymore. So unless I can see you and talk to you, it's and to be part of this movement, it's a tough time.
Well, right, and I mean, and here's the thing: it's not just the benefit, of course. The health benefit is one thing, but forget about benefits. It is really about living better. And here's the other thing: when it comes to supporting your local producers of food, you have a better chance of knowing what's going into what's being grown, what's being produced. You have a better chance, and also maintaining your local economy also releases you from the dependence on the Wally Marts, from the dependence on the, I don't know what they have in Canada. I've talked to lots of people in Canada, but I never bothered to ask what your major chain stores are up there that are the corporate engines of commerce. But the point is that the more that we decouple ourselves from these larger corporate entities, if we get back to acting locally, this is a benefit of massive proportion on a lot of fronts, right?
Oh, absolutely. And people, and what's great is actually we got a lot of motivation happening right here where I live in Penticton, BC, in regards to supporting local, going back to local. So I'm very pleased because I've been pounding the pavement for 4 years. Because the funny thing is with these calendars, it ranges from the town of Osoyoos to the town of Summerland, which is if you had to drive it, because we're in a valley here. It's one of the top agricultures in Canada, right here where I live. And if you had to travel by car, it's about I would say about an hour and a half. And there's small towns in between. And I don't drive, so I actually walk, hitchhike, and bike to put together these calendars here. I just lost my train of thought there.
It's okay. You're talking about the way in which you have begun to distribute the calendars. You're interacting with your local community, and this is something that I stress all the time, that people need to extract themselves from the secondary world. I know this sounds hypocritical because here we are talking on an internet radio show, but you cannot rely, because human beings are social creatures. We require interaction. We require socialization as much as we require food, as much as we require water, as much as we require air, in all honesty. You require human interaction. And here's the thing. The more that you immerse yourself into the surrogate world of the internet and don't interact with other human beings directly, the less more to your own nature you will be. And the more susceptible to problems, the weaker you become as an organism, because the nature of the human organism is to interact. So there is a positive element here socially. There's a positive element here from a financial standpoint, from an economic standpoint, as far as supporting your local community. You have the increased revenue and the streams and the circulation of wealth within a given community, which also makes your own surroundings better. Because what happens to the large corporate entities that come into your local community is they extract. That's all they do. They extract wealth. They extract that flow of money. It's not something where they reinvest much. I mean, yes, I know that the Wally Marts turn around and maybe drop some money on some schools or whatever else for a little goodwill. But realistically, they have stolen a great deal more from your local communities than you may be aware. And when you begin to interact with local agricultural people, local business people, you can know the exact nature of where it is they're getting their products from. You can choose not to deal with those who get themselves the Chinese slave goods, which I like to very much harangue on because I'm very disgusted with them. Yep. And this is the thing. You get a great deal more choice. You get a great deal more power with your purchasing ability. You get the added benefit of being able to control the quality of what it is you are putting into, on, and around your body. And how can that be a negative, sir? There is no negative to it. So this to me sounds wonderful, and hopefully you've caught back up with your train of thought there, because I know you were going somewhere interesting. If not, we can just set up a whole new track. It's fine.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, if you had told me I was going to be doing this 10 years ago, I would have told you, you got a drinking problem, you're drunk. I led both marches against Monsanto here in Penticton. With wonderful people working with me. It wasn't just myself, but I'm the spokesman. But to stand up in front of 200 to 300 people, with a megaphone, and then march through your farmers market takes a lot of guts to do that. And I didn't go to school for this. I'm just a concerned citizen that wanted to make a difference. So I took my skills as a sales and marketing guy and put together the whole concept of local supporting locals. And the way it's created, too, is to help fund the organization, the project, because most activist groups out there are broke. And so the calendars help to allow that to fund yourself, and then it leads into the website. And now with the thanks to Liberty Beacon with localsradio.com, which is our archive site, we're actually able to get out on the air as well. So it's just been awesome, like putting together this whole project, and it changes at all times, like because that's the way our system is changing, and so you got to be subject to change at all times. And I think part of the problem, as you were saying there, is when it comes to the whole local movement here, like when you do keep your money local, it does allow for more jobs, and that's where most young adults start off, is in your local grocery store. I mean, there's such a variety of different markets, but that's where you start off. And the problem is I think too many people now, they see this dream of wanting to be a millionaire. And so, for some reason to work at your corner store or at your local business isn't enough for them. They want to be rich, and they want to be all set up and not have to worry about working again. And that's not the way we were designed. We're all workers. Everybody plays a role. But if everybody wants to be a bloody millionaire, then none of us are going to be working.
Right. You can't have everybody being the boss if there's nobody to be the boss of, that's for sure. And there is a work ethic which is instilled in someone when they have to start from a smaller position. But on the flip side of that, of course, when you do have these larger entities involved directly in your community, and they become the only thing left because they've essentially eliminated the local businesses by attrition, what happens is, of course, the wages go down, the opportunities go down, the variety of work goes down, and what happens is you're left with a town that virtually has nothing left in it except the Walmart and the McDonald's. Yep. And when that happens, why should they even bother to consider raising the wages of the slaves? They now have control over all of the employment, unless you want to commute. So it's a very simple equation that seems to be missed by a lot of people. And it's just, I know that in some ways I'm preaching to the choir here, because we all understand that the corporate entities are the biggest threat to us as people. But what they don't also take into account is that when you are going to the Wally Marts and things like this, and you are dropping all of your money into them, it is doing you no good. Yes, you may be saving a small amount on your purchase. You may be getting a hold of something that you might not otherwise be able to afford if a local businessman had to, produce a similar product, et cetera, But in the long run, it does a lot of damage to the local economy and leaves it quite, sucked dry. Very much like a spider ends up engulfing a fly. This is what happens to these local communities. And it's just a problem of mammoth proportion that is continuous. And I don't know how to explain to some people that this is what is one of the most important things that we can start to participate in, which is to support your local economies and to get back to healthier things as well. While I'm thinking about this, because I know I'll lose track of my time, I always do, I want to make sure that people can find your stuff on YouTube, and also you mentioned the local radio. I forget exactly how you put it, but if you could just reiterate where we can find you on the internet, and then also give us a couple other spots where we can see some of this stuff for ourselves, because I always tell people, please go out and look at these things for yourself, and perhaps maybe you'll pick up some of what Kevin is doing and do it for yourselves. This is why I think it's most interesting. So if you have a couple of places where they can see what you're doing and see your videos and things, I would be more than happy to direct people there.
Well, if they visit, and thank you for that too, if they visit localssupportinglocals.ca, so that's plural, locals, supportinglocals.ca, that's our primary website, and we got videos, news, links, events, blogs, and we also have the localsradio.com, which is the archives to all of our radio shows since we started. So I think we're about into show number 9 now. And so, yeah, you can see it through there. And the YouTube channel is actually my name, Kevin.Proteau, Proteau. But if you click onto one of the videos that's made by Local Supporting Locals, and you click watch on YouTube, that will bring you right to our channel for those that are not as computer savvy. But you just go to the bottom right corner there, and it says watch on YouTube, and that brings you to the people's channel that you're watching the video from. So if you want to check sources, but so localsradio.com, localsupportinglocals.ca, and we're working to amalgamate one website and create a directory system on there as well to help guide people to their local businesses. And also what we're looking to do is implement a farm schedule too, because again, we're very fortunate here, and I know it's harder for people in bigger cities, and I've seen it across Canada through my door-to-door that I did across Canada, how all these smaller towns, but because of them squashing the local farmers, and if you don't comply with the Monsanto, and basically you can't. A lot of places can't get access to the real food. So we're very fortunate here, and that's why I'm not standing and fighting for Canada. I'm not standing and fighting for BC. I'm taking a stand where I am here in the Okanagan, and as I like to say, you can't have my broken noggin. And what we're trying to do is share what we're doing here so that you can start up a local supporting local chapter where you are. And the key is to work together so that this way we can continue to trade and barter and discuss what works for us here, what didn't work, so that this way you don't repeat the same errors as we did. And that's what we try to do. We always try to work with people. And it's kind of disheartening because, you get a lot of people that come in for personal gain, or they like what you're doing, so they take the concept and they think they can do it better, or there's always a little agenda behind there, and it's kind of disheartening. So, but we've had enough success with people actually getting the concept and wanting to work together. And so, I recommend that all my information, my phone number is all on the localsupportinglocal.ca website. By all means, give me a call. That's how I was able to actually put together the calendar and the information, because when I saw something I was concerned about, like GMOs, I reached out to the people I saw raising awareness to it, and I contacted them directly, and I asked the questions. And so when somebody's out of touch and and you can't reach them, I question you and what you're doing. So I'm very big on wanting to talk to you personally before I end up promoting what you're doing. And we try to do the best that we can with local supporting locals. There's always one sneaky little bugger that gets in there, trying to, pretend to walk the walk, and meanwhile they don't talk it, so, or... You know what I mean on that one, but
I gotcha.
Yeah.
It's okay. Listen, Kevin, it's live, so this is the way it's going to go. What you meant to say is, they're talking the talk, but they are not walking the walk.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I realized it after I said it.
And once in a while, you know what? You're going to find people that don't necessarily belong in the crowd, and unfortunately, you gotta send them on their way for now, because eventually they may come back around and they may actually have the right idea in mind, but people do things for their own purposes, that's for sure. And like I say all the time, I'm willing to be friendly with anybody to get good information out there, but I won't necessarily maintain a friendship with someone over my radio show just because. Because I do find from time to time there are people that just wanted to harangue me for the things I say or the stuff I promote or whatever else, and but quite honestly, this is the nature of the beast. This is the nature of all things, is that you're not going to find just all good people all the time, and it's not always, a beautiful cooperation. But it is the kind of thing that we do need to get to, because as I am fond of saying, and it sounds like a ripoff of something Roger says, but it's not, as I'm fond of saying, if we don't learn to stand together, we shall certainly all fall separately. So... I advise everyone to start to cooperate and to work together toward the better ends for all of us involved. And this is one aspect that Kevin is talking about, but it has a greater reach. It's not the limited subject that some people think it is when it comes to the GMOs and trying to. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I don't necessarily. Not everything that I eat or participate in is locally grown, et cetera, et cetera. More because I don't have a great awareness of where I am, where these things are. I don't have great access to a lot of stuff. I would love to see one of these local supporting locals chapters, arrive here where I am, because I could use some help trying to put my money where my mouth is, really, to be honest with you. So I'm glad to hear that you're encouraging people to legitimately try to start up the same type of thing that you're doing, and leading by example. What else could we ask for out of anyone? And although this is, part of your activism, this is part of your actions, this is also a journalistic endeavor, because you are demonstrating to the world what can be done, regardless of how large your audience is, regardless of if you're with, a sanctioned network or an unsanctioned network. It doesn't really matter. The point is that this is part of the world of journalism, in my opinion, because you are definitely doing an expose on something that matters. And that to me is I want to hear more, actually, Kevin. So please.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that too, and like doing what I'm doing too, and again, over the 4 years of creating this, and as it grows, you're learning new things all the time. And I've definitely changed my viewpoints where I was at the beginning, where once I learned about GMOs, I was ready to condemn every restaurant and store that had GMOs, not realizing that the mess that we're in today didn't happen overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. So it is baby steps to getting it back, but we need to start trying. And, what you were saying there about community, and this is what I'd like to throw out to people, and hopefully people that are listening right here in the Okanagan where I am, is, communities are a group of all types of individuals. We're not all going to you got to come together a few times out of the year, depending on the seriousness of what we're involved in here, or in a month. And then you decide what's best for your community. And we got so many laws now that it's outrageous. You can't cross the street without getting a. It's almost to the point where you need to get a permit from the city to cross the street, for God's sakes, and it's, as long as you operate with the law of thou shalt not commit harm, which is tribal law, you start from there. And so, so again, to the people that are out there that, that have been, following locals, supporting locals, remember, it's a community, and we break up into tribes, but we do have to work together. And I just want to touch on it, lead into another subject here, because I think it's very, very important, and I'm sure you're well aware of it. And we did a show on this a few weeks ago on the UN Agenda 21, which is the greenwashing agenda, which locals supporting locals does not support in any way, shape, or form here. And this is why we stick on our own, and we try to find like-minded people. But we have a very serious agenda that's leading a lot of people down the path, thinking that they're here to say, this green agenda here is going to save the planet, and it looks like it's all good. But then when you peel it back, it puts us in a far further state than we are right now. It is truly, truly fascism at its worst. I'm sure you're aware of Agenda 21, Chuck?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't find a greater sort of philosophical bent that just absolutely represents a wolf in sheep's clothing than the condition of what a lot of people believe is the environmental movement at this point. Again, this is yet another excuse and system for control. And here we go. Just because we want to get in touch with nature, and just because we believe in getting back to a natural state as human beings that we have been very much removed from by incremental changes in this entire society at this point, does not mean that we're on board with the green agenda here. So I'm very glad you're bringing this up. And Agenda 21, people mention it a lot, but I don't think they quite get exactly how insidious it can be.
Oh, absolutely. And I highly recommend people go to localsradio.com and scroll down, and the title of the show is Sustainability, or AKA Sustainability UN Agenda 21. And just so people understand, UN Agenda 21 is what the UN foresees for the 21st century, which we're already in here, and they're moving this agenda along very, very quickly. They're doing it through carbon tax, carbon credits. The carbon credits is one of the biggest scams going out there, and we're seeing all these eco taxes and people should please check your receipts. You're going to see that there's a new tax here in BC like for a deposit for a bottle. I bought this the Santa Cruz organic apple juice, and there was a 20-cent deposit that you have to pay when you purchase it, and which you're supposed to get back when you return it. But then there's another 30-cent eco charge, which you don't get back. And you can go research this, and all they do is they tell you that these are going towards, basically good things for BC. They don't tell you what or where, but it all contributes back into their green agenda scheme here. And that brings in the whole smart meter, or the smart grid, which is being promoted as being great for the environment, money saving, and we're seeing everybody's bills go through the bloody roof here. Mm-hmm. And I know it's happening in the U.S. as well. And so, but people are caught up in this, and it's really crazy because a lot of the students are getting taught this in the universities and college. And at the same token, they're even being taught that when they come out, they're going to have people like you and me demonizing them or trying to tell them that what you're doing is wrong. And so they're already expecting this when they come out. And apparently we think the world is flat. It's very, very well done. Dr. Thierry Vrain has been on our show twice, and he actually worked at the Summerland Research Center here as a GMO scientist. And he even explained, how that, through his schooling and through his work as a GMO scientist, he's no longer, he's retired now, and he's speaking out against GMOs, particularly with glyphosate. But he explained that, the students are being prepped to come out and expect this when they come out. And it's sad, because you go through all this schooling and you spend all this money to come out that, and find out that everything you just were taught was a lie, and you're a very bad man. And people have a hard time accepting that.
Well, right, because after all, what are we but conspiracy theorists who believe that the entire world is out to get us because we're paranoid, and we must encourage these people to take their SSRIs and drink their water daily because, of course, fluoride is so healthy for you and all that good stuff. Because after all, we are the unbalanced minority in the society who sees things this way because we obviously have something wrong with us. And this is the agenda. You can tell that I'm saying this in a backhanded fashion, I'm sure. Yeah. This is again part of the very same playbook that they utilize when we sit there and we challenge the official narratives of everything. Whether it be events of historical significance, the state of the chemical world, or what I like to call the state of chemical warfare, really, because it just seems so well coordinated that it would have to be organized in a military fashion in order to be so prevalent on every single side of the equation when it comes to being a living being. I mean, our air is under attack, our food is under attack, our water is under attack, our psychology is under attack, our children are under attack. They have left us nothing molested essentially in the ways of detrimentally being destructive, whether it's incremental or it's immediate, it doesn't really matter. It just seems that way. And one of the very, very extreme examples of this is the food supply. And yes, you're right. They do now prepare you for, listen, there's going to be people who are going to tell you that this is not right, that this is a problem, and the real problem is them. It isn't that there's anything wrong with these biochemical arrangements that have been made with the corporations. It's just fine. There's something wrong with the people telling you that there's something wrong. And isn't that, yeah, see how you laugh? I mean, but look, if you just simply open your eyes and examine examine things for yourselves, tell me how it is you can't see that there is a problem here. I mean, fluoride is a neurotoxin. Now, I know we're not talking about water right now, but how many of your food products require water to be manufactured? Okay. Tell me something. Tell me where this is a good thing. It's not good for your teeth. I think that the dental hygiene of most of the, so-called industrialized or civilized, I hate to use the word civilized, but most of the industrialized world has not been improved by the induction of this into the, aquifers, the induction of this into the water treatment systems. None of this stuff has done us any good. And it's evident, It's evident if you simply look at things from a purely scientific and objective point of view. But of course, don't do that. Believe us. Appeal to authority. This is the way of the world, right? And you're very right. I'm glad you pointed that out because, I often am confronted by people who say, do you really think that this is what they would teach in a university if it was wrong?
They don't know. What they don't realize is where their funding is coming from for the universities today.
Yeah, there you go. Because how many of those universities, require government funding, which in turn is also, funded by the corporation. I'll give you a quick, for instance, really fast. Is that I don't know if people are aware of this, but in the United States, if you attempt to do any sort of food study regarding genetically modified organisms, it specifically states, if you seek to, acquire any sort of grant money from the United States, that you are not permitted to make negative statements about Monsanto. Now, what does that tell you?
Well, and that's where I know they come under different titles, but one of them is Transition Talents, which is global. ICLEI, which is the acronym ICLEI, which people can go to the websites and see if your town is actually committed into this. But these are some of the different organizations that come across as the grassroots movement. And I got to admit, since I started up Locals Supporting Locals, I've had a lot of people inquire into Locals Supporting Locals, and they do want to start it up. But we're still the only chapter of Locals Supporting Locals. So if anything is global, you gotta question it. And when I actually attended Transition Town meetings here, I really thought it was part of the save all. Everybody was quite informed, maybe not to the degree that I am, but I've done extensive research into it. But I felt great. I skipped home and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. But then I got the Freedom of Advocates sent to me, and it was a letter, transition into what? And it backed up everything all throughout the article that you can go and research and back up everything that was just discussed. And so I did that, but on top of that, I researched and found out a contact number for the Freedom of Advocates because I really wanted to know. I wanted to talk right to you and say, like, where did you get this? And I truly thought it was being part of something good here, so I wanted to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. And so I highly recommend people look into this. And like I even said to the group before removing myself from it, is with that book, that Transition Town book that comes across all green and fuzzy and warm, take the good out of it, and then use the rest of the book for kindling. Because, because they give you 5 different mandates that you got to follow. You pick 4. Okay, so they give you a feeling like you're choosing for yourself here, but you're really not. You're getting to choose 4 out of the 5. And then you got to register your transition town. And so my question was, who are we registering this with? And who's the one that chose these 5 mandates? And as for the, calling my town transition town, you know what? I kind of like Penticton. And when the word Penticton is translated, it means a place to stay forever. And so, and I like to say jokingly, when they tried to start up a prison here, one business owner put on his storefront, Penticton is a place to stay forever, not 2 years less a day. And, so just throwing that out to people. And if you're part of these organizations, just be aware of it and, and start to discuss it and how you remove yourself from the core of that organization and go back to local. Just take the good out of it. You don't, because they get a lot of they get like Tides Canada, Tides period is all funded by George Soros, and so it's like you said, like you were just saying, and they get funding or they get grants, and there's a lot of grants going out there, and a lot of people jump on them just to get the grant. But in order to keep your organization going, like you just said, you cannot say a word about GMOs. Like there's a foundation here. They had a seminar for a week on sustainability, and then they had a GMO debate, and that's where I got the pleasure of meeting Dr. Siri Rain and Dr. Shiv Chopra. And so they had 2 pro-GMO and 2 anti-GMO. And the organizer of the event, I wish I can remember the name right now, but she said at the beginning, she goes, people seem to think that just because we promote sustainability means that we're against GMOs. And she goes, that's the furthest from the truth. She goes, as a registered charity, we can either advocate for or against. And it was funny, I had a couple of...
See, you lose your tax breaks if you do stuff like that. So what you're saying, Kevin, and just to let you know, we only have a little less than 10 minutes left. Okay. I just want you to know that in case you wanted to get to some particular key points. But here's the thing, I'm shocked, Kevin. You mean to tell me that they have controlled opposition? Is that what that is? I never heard of such a thing, Kevin. Now you have absolutely blown my mind. You know that is so sarcastic. I can't even dredge up enough sarcasm for that. I'm sorry, but they control the opposition too. That's part of the. Oh wow, what a strategy!
Well, you brought up that term conspiracy theory, and I just I only discovered where that term was coined from. Just in the past few months here, and apparently it was coined because of the JFK assassination.
Very good. Because whether you know this about me or not, I'm often cited. I don't consider myself an expert, but some other people do on the assassination. And yes, please go ahead, because this all comes about because of the modern understanding of contemporary historical writing and where it came from. I know what you're going to say. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, anybody who's delved into the JFK assassination at all knows that there's controversy in regards to what really happened. And there's a number of documentaries. I'm sure they probably pulled some off, but where you can watch and you could see that he was shot 3 times from 3 different directions. You can see that the head shift. And so what people need to understand is, so if they are able to slow that video down enough for you to be able to see that, what do you think the people on the side of the road saw? So they saw what happened, and so there was so much out there with people that actually that were seeing the story that was being printed, and they're like, "That's not true," and so that's where they turned the coin. Don't subscribe into these conspiracy theories, and so yeah, so that's what people need to. And a lot of those people, just so you know as well, coincidentally, have are no longer with us.
Well, I spent hundreds of hours talking to people that were there. I spent hundreds of hours talking to people that were there, that were at the hospital, that were at the airport, various individuals. I guarantee you I've interviewed more than 50 Dallas police officers that were on duty that day, that were called into active duty that day. And let me tell you something. The conspiracy theory was one of the things that they wanted to squash. This was in internal government documents. They wanted to take care of what was called outrageous conspiracy theories, which unfortunately ends up being a whole lot more factual than the official narrative. And
yes.
But this is the thing. It effectively worked for a very, very long time. People did buy the official story, and the official story, as I always say, if you are going to simply trust your government or any larger entity to tell you the truth, you are making a big error. You need to think for yourself. You need to examine things for yourself, and that is not limited to, like I said, historical events like the assassination. Examine your food for yourself. Take a look at what's in it. I don't care what it is. Take a look at it. Take it out of your cabinet. Examine what's in it. Try and figure out what some of that stuff is. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what some of it is. It's unknown substances as far as I'm concerned. But even so, in this age, in this day, you can't escape the fact that there is stuff in your food that doesn't belong there. And look, if it's not necessary for life, why are you eating it?
I got a rule. If I can't pronounce it, I ain't eating it.
There you go. And you know what? Not a bad rule to have. And of course, if you can pronounce it, it might be a little scary too.
Oh yeah. Well,
less than 5 minutes left, Kevin. I want to make sure we let everybody know one more time about the YouTube channel. Like, if you could name some of the videos that are up there, or whatever, because people do search sometimes by the names. That would be great. If the radio shows also made into YouTube videos, or are they just? Yeah.
Yeah, it all goes right back to the YouTube channel, and if they Google either Heartbeat of the Okanagan or LSL, use the acronym for Local Supporting Locals, the Heartbeat of the Okanagan, that will bring you to the YouTube channel. Even though there is other ones that are copycatting the Local Supporting Locals name, even though, just so people know, it is copyright and trademarked by the Squamish Nation government. So if you want to meet them, by all means. If you can't do this with integrity, don't touch it.
A Skype message just came across to ask me to have you spell Okanagan.
It's O-K-A N-A-G-A-N. So that's O-K-A-G-A-N, Okanagan.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, but I wanted to make sure that people knew what to type when they were looking for it.
Okay, no, that's no problem.
So look, in closing, because we're just about to run out of time here, and I really appreciate your time today, sir. If you want, we could definitely go into this stuff more in depth. On another program. You're definitely welcome back. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I see the multiple levels of benefits that can be had from doing this kind of work. I really wish that I lived closer to you, but unfortunately I'm here in North Carolina in the, like I say, the formerly United States of America. This even in an agricultural kind of area where I am, it's still not easily self-evident where the local farmers are, what type of food they're growing. It needs to be organized better. Yes, there is a farmer's market, but you need to investigate this stuff for yourselves. And wouldn't it be great if we could have one of these kind of, one of these kind of groups in our backyard that's legitimately showing us where the good stuff is. And and this is what I think it's all about, is that if we don't start to act in a local fashion, how do we expect to affect the global situation? So,
well, and that's why, and again, that's what the calendar is for. It's your guide map to find them again. It's got your information in there, but it wasn't easy doing this, but putting this together here, because I had to put the concept together and go business to business to get sponsors in order to get the calendar printed. If they didn't believe in what I was doing, then the calendar doesn't get printed. So it's a lot of work, and again, I have no problem showing people and teaching people how to do that and how to get the message out there properly, where you can get the support from your community. Because again, starting off, I actually had to staple and tape and put together my idea of supporting locals with this calendar here.
Really quickly, Kevin, I want to say,
Yep.
Do you mind if I direct people to you on Facebook?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yes.
All right. Kevin ProTube, PRO. Find him on Facebook. Thank you.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
See, but I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible for me? Pistols and fondle slab of choice. I don't know what that was. It doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the cartoon comes from, as long as it's real. It doesn't take hard to get real information. Because seriously, they don't want you to